Thank you, Desiree, Marcus, everybody here at the D.R.I.V.E. School for the Arts, thank you for having me. Hope y'all ready to get to work. Oh, if you're scared, say you're scared, because basically everything that Desiree said is pretty much the tip of the iceberg, just to give you a little bit more about how I've come connected with Marcus and everybody here. I'm also a second-generation musician and a first-generation music producer. Throughout my time in radio, I've had the chance to sit under the learning tree of some of the most prolific singers, songwriters, and producers in the business. By far my favorite, one of my closest friends who hasn't gone, he's just moved, Stephen Static Major Garrett. So had the chance to work with him and act as a mentor of sorts to him. I've worked with various rock groups, R&B groups, even some country artists from time to time, as Desiree said. Mostly doing a lot of studio work because I found for me that while performing was cool, and this is just me, I found that I was more effective as a hit maker than a hit singer. So that's why I kind of faded off into the background more or less, got behind the scenes and got into the actual business of the music business. And this is information that I'm ready to share with a lot of you today. So a lot of the stuff you can make notes on, make some mental notes. I'll be passing along some websites, some other source material for you to check out. And we'll go through a little bit here, do some questions and answers. And there's a little more information that I'm going to give you toward the end here that's going to give you another bit of resource material. But you have to do a little homework for you, okay? So, with me being a program director for so many radio stations, part of my job was to decide what music would be played on the air. Part of that process is literally getting hundreds of pieces of music a month from several different record companies. Them wanting me to decide, okay, is this record good enough for me to play on the air? Is all the promotion we're putting behind this artist worth your airplay? So, having an advantage of being a musician, I kind of listen to music with a totally different mindset. I listen from the aspect of being a musician and a producer. So, I gained a reputation in radio for being kind of tough to deal with because my standards were set so high. Which leads me to point number one. With your music and the way that you present it, the importance of a first impression is crucial. Let me say that again. The importance of your first impression is crucial. Let me tell you how I get music submitted to me. From major record labels all the way down to local artists. A lot of time with major labels, it's professionally pressed, packaging is done, there's a little bit of biographical information if it's a new artist. They may send what's known as an EPK, an electronic press kit. I'll tell you more about that in a little bit. Anything and everything they need to do to get me to get to know that artist. That's on the top end of professionalism. On the low end, and I've had to deal with this more times than not, somebody sending me a CD that they got from Office Depot with the Office Depot label on it, the title, artist, written in a Sharpie. Now, it may be one of the most banging songs I've ever heard in life. But 9.5 times out of 10, unless I'm feeling especially generous one day, I'm not even gonna listen to it. Mindset. This person didn't believe enough in themselves to invest enough to put out a proper product. So if he or she's gonna send that to me like that, my mindset is, what's it gonna sound like? So that presentation is awfully important. The thing is, with the advent of all of technology, all of the apps, all of the tools that we have at our disposal, and it's so cheap, you can press a quality looking CD or DVD or MP3 Whether the music is good or not, that's still going to be subjective to the person that's listening to it. The other way that I get new music is on the street. How many of you have gone to like a gas station, shopping center, grocery store, homeboys on the corner, yo dog, got that CD, got that $5, got that CD, $5. Like, no, bro, I'm good. Again, it's all in the approach. One of my favorite stories, there's a young man by the name of Sincere who's a local artist. He's walking downtown, going to Borders bookstore when Borders was still here. This young man walks up to me, introduces himself, shakes my hand, tells me about his music, hands me this professionally produced CD. Packaging was nice, packaging was good. And I left thinking, you know what? This dude was smart. He went down the road less traveled. Who would think to try to distribute your CD in a bookstore? He didn't sell it, he just gave it to me, wanted me to listen to it. I got in my car, what do you think I did?
Listen to it.
And luckily for him, the stuff on the CD was nice. It was very nice. So, you know, we talked, gave him some words of encouragement, got him a little airplay, and he's still making music to this day. So that first impression is important. It's everything from the way you approach somebody you want, if it's the person on the street, because you never know who that person is. It's the way that you are looking when you present your music. I mean, you don't have to be suit and tie every day, but at least look presentable. Okay? So because the people that you talk to, those are music purchasers. Those are people that can generate word of mouth. Those are people that can help push your brand, and you're going to hear me use that term quite a bit this afternoon, your brand as a musician. They're the ones that you need to captivate. And that's even before you even get to radio. Okay? So the importance of radio airplay, if you study the business side of the music business, you're going to see a lot of stories about musicians that make significant record sales without the benefit of airplay. And in fact, we've been doing it like this for years. Back in the day, 20, 30 years ago, there was a rapper out of Oakland named Too Short. Dude used to sell CDs out of the trunk of his car to the tune of hundreds of thousands of units monthly. He was making a nice living before he even got signed to a record deal. How did he get that deal? Some A&R dude at D.R.I.V.E.N Records, his original label, saw his story. Who's this dude in Oakland doing all these units without any distribution or without? We need to sign him. The rest is history. Full circle in the way that a lot of older groups work now. They are now, and this is something else I'm going to talk about later on, they are in total control of their destinies. Rock group, the Eagles, hadn't been on a record label in years. The big thing with them was when they were done touring back in the 80s and 90s, they were done. And they literally said, the next time we will get on stage is when hell freezes over. 20 years later, they got back together, recorded a live album, went on a tour called When Hell Freezes Over. That record, CD, DVD, or whatever, that whole tour generated more money for them as artists than they would have ever gotten dealing with a major label. Why? Because they controlled everything. They had the resources to do it, they knew enough about the business to do it, and they are not beholden to anybody but themselves. In fact, there are a lot of groups that are doing it that way now. Allie Caldwell, who you'll be seeing a little later on, she's doing it that way. She has her own imprint. She's in control of her own destiny. I've got friends in famous rock bands that have taken control of their destinies. A good friend of mine named Steve Lukather, who is the lead guitarist for the band Toto, and for my money, one of the top 5 guitarists in the world. Just wrote a book, and if you get a chance to check it out, I highly recommend it. It's called The Gospel According to Luke. And it talks about their career, and he gets into a section to where they started controlling their own destiny after being screwed over by a bunch of yes men from record labels. So now they control everything. They're touring again. In fact, they do big business overseas, and they're just now getting back to touring here in the States. So again, it's all about control. Now, the importance of radio play is that is another way for buzz to be generated, so people to get to know your music. But how do you not get lost in the shuffle of a 30 or 40 song playlist? How do you work your way up the ladder? So here's how music gets added, okay? Say Marcus has a new song. In fact, for example, we'll go with World Problems as a single that he's released. Got it to the radio station liked it, and decided, you know what, we're gonna give this a shot. So they put it in their new song category. For us, we have 4 different categories. A's, those are the top rotating songs you'll hear maybe once every other hour nowadays. Medium rotation records, those are B's. New records are C's. Recurrents, songs that you've been hearing for a while, starting to get tired of, those would be your D records. So Marcus right now is in the C category. Song gets played, it's building up a buzz, it's building a story. He's starting to move units, starting to get requests. We're seeing more activity out of it on social media, performances, websites. The song is getting popular because of what he's doing outside of radio play. What happens to that song? There you go. It does move up the playlist, so it becomes a B. Medium rotation. All right, say the song is still just catching heat, catching a lot of heat. Marcus is doing more and more to get himself out there. Song is getting more and more popular, starting to pick up airplay in other parts of the country. Very popular song. What happens to that song? Moves to an A rotation. So then you're hearing that song every hour, hour and a half. Because Marcus is putting the work to build a story around that record. And that's what radio stations are looking for. How do we get this information? Research. We talk to people just like you on a daily basis. You tell us what you think about particular songs. So these are people that are going to be judging your music because this is your audience. And depending on what they tell us and depending on the story that we see, that's how the record moves. Now, a record can stall, and there have been a lot that do. And so it goes, maybe it gets to a B and doesn't get any higher because there's more, there's music that's more popular than that. Or maybe it gets into that C category and just gets stuck. Doesn't move beyond a C. In the record industry, we call that a stiff. Record's just about a hit. We gave it a shot, it's gone. We got to make room for somebody else. And that's the mindset that you need to have with your music as far as radio play goes, okay? But the mistake that a lot of artists make, especially here in Louisville, is that they think that radio is the be-all, end-all. I don't know if you remember a few years ago, there was a protest against B96. A bunch of folks started to picket the radio station. What was the hashtag Play My Hits? And I was able to sit on the outside looking in, and I looked at that whole thing for how ridiculous it was because, one, you're yelling and screaming, but you don't have a base of people supporting you. Which leads me to another part of the business that we need to wrap our heads around here in Louisville. It's believing in yourself versus believing your own hype. I don't know how many times I've had young artists here in Louisville talking about, well, this is the hottest stuff on the streets. What streets? Your block? It's just your boys gassing you up. And then I ask the question, how many people outside of your circle know who you are? Have even heard of you? Well, B96 ain't played my record, that's why they don't know nobody. No. They don't know you because you haven't put in the work. You're too busy being gassed by your boys, thinking that you're here, when you're still down here. So you believe in the hype, but you're not believing yourself. And believing yourself means that you know you have to put in the grind. You got this song, you want the radio's attention, you build a story. How many local performances can you get? How many places can you find to play? How many recording sessions can you get put on? What kind of grind can you put yourself on that will get you noticed above everybody else that's trying to do the same thing? So that, again, when you're out here and you're making music, it's nice to have the support of your people, but let that be a teeny tiny bit of what you're doing. Because they're not the ones that are going to be supporting you as you try to make this a career. Oh yeah, they'll gas you up, but they're not paying for your records. They're not paying for any tours or anything like that. So, you know, in one ear, let it marinate for a second, and then out the other, okay? And we've already touched on the professionaling and packaging, and I mentioned the word brand. Everything that I just talked about goes toward building that brand. Everything that I just talked about over the last few minutes goes toward building that brand. What is that brand? That brand is your reputation. That brand is the top of mind thing that people think of whenever they hear your name. So within the music and radio industry, somebody mentions the name Mark Gunn, one of two reactions. One, that dude's tough, man. He's a great programmer, but he's tough. Or two, I can't stand that. Well, why? He's just too tough, man. He won't play anything. But, you know, that's a reputation I don't mind having within the industry. Because it lets them know that, okay, he's not falling for the okie doke. We have to earn our spot in order to work with him. Plus, he has a track record of picking hits. It's all there. So that's him. The reputation I have on the streets. For some, yeah, man, he knows a lot. He's been around a while. You should hit him up, ask him, talk to him. Get him as a consultant. That's one. Second one is, yeah, man, he knows a lot. He's been around a while. Dang, he's expensive. That's two. You take that for what you will as far as my business goes. And then there's the third reputation. Oh yeah, he's a nice guy. Real nice guy. And I like that reputation as well. So part of my brand is that I know what I'm doing. I can be tough to deal with, but I'm a nice guy. And because of those three things, I do have people that like to work with me. And I do get invited to conferences like this, so take that for what it is. But it is, again, about building your reputation, building your brand. Now, as far as what I do, as far as voiceover work or any sort of production work like that, the reputation, again, among those that have used my services and those that know who I am, according to them, and this is them, yeah, he's one of the best in the city. Get with him. Yeah, he's one of the most creative I've heard. His imagination is sick. Get with him. That's a reputation that gets me a lot of business. So I'm good with that. And again, building your brand. What if you could think of three things that you want people to mention off the top of their head when they mention you as a person, mention you as an artist? Think about those.